Hi, my name is Leanne Hadley, and I want to welcome you to this session of Pieta. Pieta is a spiritual movement of love and compassion towards ourselves, others, the earth, and all of God's creatures. So, if you're a person who wants to become more loving and compassionate, this might be the movement for you. Glad that you're here. Anyway, we've been spending some time exploring this model that I use called Holy Listening. I developed it, and it basically says that we hold sacred space with one another. And in those sacred spaces, as we listen to another person share their pain or their reality, whatever that is, and we hold that space with them, that they find what they need from God. So many people experience healing and wholeness simply because we show up and we listen to them. And that's the method that we use in Pieta. We come together, we have a lesson, and then we listen to one another deeply without judgment. So anyway, we've been exploring this model, really understanding, breaking the model down. And there are 4 sessions about that called Holy Listening, which you can watch if you want. And then now we're going to practice for the next 3 weeks. We've already practiced for 1 week. This is week 2. We're going to practice Holy Listening with one another so that we can intentionally become better listeners and better holders of sacred space. Before we get to that, let me light our candle and we'll enter our sacred space. We are in sacred space together. And I want to just read our Pieta prayer. Take a breath, be still, and hear this prayer. Let me be in the world with nothing to prove, letting go of all expectations and judgment. May I give and receive compassion. May I care for others and receive their care. May I love deeply and receive love. May I be in the world with nothing to prove. May I be Pieta. Pieta is a way of being together where we promise not to judge one another, but we do promise also to journey with each other. So, Holy Listening is a method that we can use to journey well with another person. We have 4 scriptures that we're focusing on these 4 weeks, and I just want to read all 4 of them to you because I think they're very powerful, and there's a gift that goes with each scripture. So first is Micah 7:7. This is the gift of waiting on God to show up. But as for me, I will look to the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation, and God will hear me. Matthew 11 is the gift of the call to listen. So we are called to be listeners. Let those who have ears, let them hear. Luke 8 is the gift of being able to hold sacred space with another person. No one lights a lamp and hides it in a clay jar or puts it under a bed. Instead, they put it on a stand so that those who come in can see it. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Therefore, consider carefully how you listen. And Luke 24 says, Jesus asked them, what are you discussing together as you walk along? Jesus himself was a great listener. Those are our 4 scriptures. Tonight we're going to focus on the second scripture, which is the Matthew 11:15. And to just give you a little context for that, in this scripture, Jesus has just found out that his partner, his cousin, his friend, the man who baptized him, the man who proclaimed that he was indeed the Messiah, had been thrown into prison. They didn't like John talking about a new reality that was coming. And John is probably at John the Baptizer is probably at one of his lowest moments. He is now in prison and knows that probably is a death sentence for him. And so while he's sitting in prison, I'm sure he's doing what we all do when we're in bad times. We say, did my life make a difference? And he sends word to Jesus and he says, are you the one that we've been waiting for? And Jesus could have answered a lot of ways. Jesus could have said, well, yes, I am. I am the Messiah. I have fulfilled the scripture, whatever. But instead, Jesus says to him these words. He says, go back and report to John what you've seen. And he says, the blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. So Jesus, rather than explaining who he is, he simply says, John, I'm doing the work that God put me on this earth to do. He understood the role of the Messiah to be one who entered into everyday life with people, and journeyed with them through the worst times of their life. Those who were blind, those who had leprosy, those who were deaf, those who had died physically and spiritually. Christ was always with them, not judging, and through his interactions, they received new life. That is the work of the Messiah. So then Jesus goes on to talk about John, and he says, I don't know what you people want. I don't understand. John came and told you there's a different way of being. I'm modeling that. What is bad about this? And then he says, whoever has ears, let them hear. It's interesting, though, that Jesus in the first part says, tell them what you see. And then he says, if you have ears. And so holy listening is more about listening with the heart and your spirit than with your ears. And what you're going to do is hold space with someone, and you are simply a witness to what is happening in their lives. You're not going to tell them that God is there. You're not going to tell them what God is saying. You're not going to make this journey easy for them. You can't. You're holding sacred space, and you're allowing God to come in. And what you are is a witness. You're going to watch this person over time get better. Now, it can be a long process. Remember, we do the U-shape over and over and over and over. But eventually, they will heal, because God is a God of healing. And people are hardwired in our spirits to move on. And our story of faith is life, death, resurrection. You, as a holy listener, are simply holding space. You're hearing with your ears what they're saying. You're listening. But you're going to hear with your heart. You're going to see with your heart the progress. You won't see it while you're doing it. You won't believe you're making any difference. It will be after a long time. And I guarantee that person will say to you, I feel better. And you'll think, what happened? And I'll tell you what happened. You held sacred space with them. And God was able to get into that space and work wonders. That's what holy listening is all about. So we listen with our ears, but we see with our hearts. We see the progress that the person is making, and we see the miraculous ability that God has to heal even the most broken person. I have sat with children that I never dreamed would get better, and with older people that you never dreamed would be happy again. Life, death, resurrection. They're happy again. They're whole. They're at peace, whatever healing looks like for them. And we are the ones that hold sacred space. So our scripture is, those who has ears to hear, let him hear. But we're going to see progress. That's what we're looking for. We're using our ears to hear, but we're going to look for progress. And we're not going to expect it. We're not going to force it. We're going to wait for it. So wait for the Lord. Listen. See the progress. Tonight, what I want you to do is use the stones again. These are the stones you're going to get in groups. You're going to pick 2 or 3 stones, and you're simply going to listen to each other. And we're just going to practice holy listening again. So this time, there's nothing special to it. You're just going to do holy listening. And this time, I'm going to put you into a little bit larger groups. Last week, we did 2 people at a time. This week, we're going to let 3 or 4 people share together so that you can all practice just listening, listening, listening. You're going to listen with your ears, and you will see that the work of the Messiah is to hold sacred space where God can do God's work. And those of us that follow a spiritual path, that believe in life, death, resurrection, we're going to see the resurrection. Not suddenly, not tonight, it takes time. But eventually, you will see it. So holy listening isn't something you do once and get rid of. It's a journey that you go on with another person. It takes courage, and it takes time, and it takes commitment. But I know that there are people out there, probably you, that are willing to do that. When you come back together tonight, I want you to say what you found the most challenging about being still, and if in your life you've had anyone that listened to you that you can attest that if somebody will journey with you, you will get better. So just spend time together, and then we'll come back together and process. Thank you. Thank you for being here.